right? Darwin S sitting at 28 degrees while Melbourne S pushing 31. Yeah, you heard that right. Melbourne warmer than the top end. That S not something you see every day. Is your area about to cop a complete weather flip in the next 72 hours? Because we've got some serious changes brewing across the eastern seaboard. The Bureau of Meteorology currently has severe weather warnings active for parts of New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria, that S affecting over 12 million Australians. And what S coming next could change everything for your weekend plans. In the next 2 minutes, I'll give you exact timing for Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, Hobart, Darwin and Canberra. But first, chuck your location in the comments right now, city or state, because tomorrow I'll be breaking down personalised forecasts for every region you guys mention. So let's get straight into it. Sydney, you are looking at 32 degrees today, dropping to 27 tomorrow as that southerly change pushes through around mid-afternoon. Weekend temps hovering around 29 with isolated showers possible Sunday. Melbourne, currently 31. Tomorrow you'll see 26 with that cool change arriving earlier, expected around 11 a.m. Brisbane, steady at 34 today, 33 tomorrow. Then we're rewatching a potential rain event for Monday that could deliver anywhere from 10 to 40 millimetres depending on where that coastal trough sets up. Perth, you've got 37 today with the Fremantle Doctor providing some relief this arvo. Tomorrow 35, weekend looking at 33 with increasing cloud. Adelaide sitting at 34, dropping to 28 tomorrow as a weak front moves through. Hobart, you are the surprise package at 29 degrees warmer than Darwin, dropping to 23 tomorrow. Darwin at 28 with high humidity staying consistent around 29 through the week. Canberra, 33 today, 26 tomorrow, bit of a yo-yo pattern through the weekend. Now here's the thing, and stick with me because this gets interesting around the 7-minute mark when we talk about what the European model is showing versus Access. We've got 3 separate weather systems all converging on Australia over the next 5 days. That is pretty unusual for early February. Let's break down what is happening state by state, and I am going to rotate through the formats here because you need different details for different regions. For you lot in northern New South Wales, Newcastle, you are tracking 30 degrees today. Potential storms tomorrow afternoon with the main risk period between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Coffs Harbour, similar story, 31 today. Isolated severe storms possible tomorrow. The models are showing anywhere from 5 to 30 millimetres, but there's still a bit of uncertainty around exactly where the heaviest falls will be. Wollongong at 29, cooler change arrives late tomorrow. Wagga Wagga, you are looking at 36 today. It S, not just the heat. It S that it S coming after a long dry spell, so fire danger is elevated. Tomorrow dropping back to 31. Dubbo sitting at 38, dropping to 32 tomorrow. Then we're rewatching a potential rain event mid next week that could finally break this dry pattern you've been experiencing. Victoria, let's go comparative here. Geelong 29, Ballarat 26, Bendigo 32. That's a pretty solid temperature gradient across the state. Shepparton pushing 34. You'll cop that southerly change around 2 p.m. tomorrow, dropping temps to 27 pretty quickly. Queensland, this is where things get complicated. Gold Coast at 33, Sunshine Coast 32, but the timing of potential rain differs significantly between you. Gold Coast, you might see something Sunday night into Monday. Sunshine Coast, Access is suggesting Monday afternoon into Tuesday. Townsville, you're at 31 with typical afternoon build-ups continuing. Cairns at 30 degrees, humidity sitting at 87% currently, so it feels more like 38. Toowoomba, I know you didn't get a drop recently, you are at 30 degrees today, and we'll have a better idea tomorrow about whether that Monday system is going to deliver for you or not. The models are still showing some inconsistency there. Western Australia, Bunbury at 34, Geraldton 38, Kalgoorlie hitting 40 degrees today. That inland heat is pretty intense. Broome at 33 with monsoonal moisture keeping things humid. South Australia, Mount Gambier at 28, Whyalla 36, Port Augusta pushing 39 degrees. That is some serious inland heat. Tasmania, Launceston at 27, Devonport 26. You are both looking at a cooler change Friday, bringing temps back to low 20s. Northern Territory, Alice Springs, absolutely cooking at 41 degrees. Katherine at 35 with higher humidity, making it feel closer to 42. Now, if you haven't dropped your location in the comments yet, do it now because we're about to get into the technical stuff. And tomorrow I want to give you specific forecasts for your exact area, right? Here is where model tension comes in. Currently, Access is showing that coastal trough along southeast Queensland staying offshore Monday through Tuesday. But the European model reckons it pushes inland Monday afternoon, which would be a 100 to 150 kilometre difference. That changes everything for Brisbane, the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast. If access is right, you'll see patchy light showers. If the European model is right, we're talking 20 to 50 millimetres across the region. Tomorrow morning S model runs should sort this out, so definitely check back because that is a significant difference for anyone with outdoor plans Monday. There's one thing that S got me concerned about the Newcastle setup tomorrow afternoon. The wind shear profile is looking pretty favourable for supercell development between Newcastle and the Queensland border. Now, it is not guaranteed we need the instability to actually fire, but if it does, we could see large hail and damaging winds. The timing looks like mid to late afternoon, peaking around 5 p.m. Let me check that again. Yeah, both GFS and Access are showing similar wind profiles, so this isn't just one rogue model. The Bureau hasn't issued anything yet, but I reckon we'll see severe thunderstorm warnings tomorrow afternoon if this sets up as expected. For the inland areas of New South Wales and Queensland experiencing elevated fire danger, Dubbo, Wagga, inland Queensland west of Toowoomba. Total fire bans are possible tomorrow depending on wind strength. The combination of heat, low humidity and gusty westerlies ahead of the change creates dangerous conditions. If you're in these areas, just be fire aware tomorrow. Now hang on, let me clarify something about the Perth forecast. Earlier I said 37 today, that S, the city. But Perth Hills, you are looking at 33 with better sea breeze penetration. Fremantle sitting at 34. There's quite a bit of variation depending on exactly where you are in the metro area. At the 10-minute mark here, I want to talk about the longer range pattern because there's something developing in the Coral Sea that we need to keep an eye on. Models are showing a potential tropical low forming around Friday next week. Now, we're still 7 days out, so there's massive uncertainty around this. Could go either way at this stage. But the interesting thing is both Access and ECMWF are showing some sort of low pressure development. Whether that becomes anything significant for the Queensland coast or just stays offshore and fizzles out, that's the big question. According to the latest runs, sea surface temperatures in the Coral Sea are sitting around 29 degrees, which is warm enough to support development. The monsoon trough is also positioned favourably, but we've also got increasing wind shear forecast for next weekend, which would work against any intensification. I'll be watching this closely over the next few days. If you are in far north Queensland, Cairns, Townsville, the Whitsundays, this is definitely something to keep in the back of your mind for next weekend. Not saying it'll definitely impact you, but it is worth monitoring. Back to the more immediate forecast, let me give you some more regional detail with varied formatting because I don't want this to get repetitive. The Scenic Rim and Jimboomba, you are potentially looking at rain Monday. Current guidance suggests 10 to 25 millimetres, arriving late morning, heaviest through the afternoon. That would be your best chance in quite a while. Ipswich area, you've been asking why you seem immune to rain. It's actually a combination of local topography and the way coastal systems tend to track. You often sit in a bit of a rain shadow depending on wind direction. Monday S setup might be different though. If that trough moves inland, as the European model suggests, you'd be right in the firing line. Hervey Bay at 33, humid conditions continuing. You'll see isolated afternoon storms this week, but nothing organised until potentially next week with that Coral Sea system I mentioned earlier. Innisfail, beautiful conditions today from what I'm hearing. You are sitting pretty at 31 degrees with sunshine and growing grass green like you've never seen. Enjoy it while it lasts because the long-range models are hinting at increased rainfall from mid-month. Central Coast, New South Wales, URE tracking 29 degrees. Storms tomorrow afternoon with the same setup affecting Newcastle. Main risk period 3 to 6 p.m. Mornington Peninsula down in Victoria. I know you are desperate for rain. Unfortunately, the frontal systems coming through this week are pretty weak and moisture starved. You might see a few millimetres Friday, but nothing substantial. The next decent rain chance looks like late next week at the earliest. Actually, I should be more specific about that Victorian frontal system. It crosses the coast early Friday morning, so Melbourne, you will see showers develop from about 6 a.m, clearing by early afternoon. But rainfall totals are looking pretty modest, 2 to 8 millimetres for most areas. If there's one thing to remember from this forecast, that model uncertainty is particularly high right now for that Monday Queensland system and the potential Coral Sea development next week. That means I'll have much better information for you tomorrow as we get closer and the models come into better agreement. For those of you planning weekend activities, Sydney-siders, Saturday looks pretty good. Sunday there is a slight shower risk. Melbourne, Saturday your better day. Sunday looking a bit cloudier. Brisbane and southeast Queensland, both days looking mostly dry, but that could change depending on how Monday setup evolves. regional Queensland and northern New South Wales. If you've got outdoor plans tomorrow afternoon, just keep an eye on radar and any warnings the Bureau issues. That storm risk is real, even if it's not guaranteed. Now let me dive a bit deeper into what's driving these patterns. We've got a high pressure system currently sitting over the Tasman Sea, and it has been pretty stubborn. That is what has been keeping things dry across southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. But that high is finally starting to shift eastward, which opens the door for moisture to push back in from the Coral Sea. At the same time, there's a low pressure trough extending from the Gulf of Carpentaria down through inland Queensland and New South Wales. That S creating an atmospheric highway for moisture. Combined with daytime heating tomorrow, particularly across the ranges, you get the perfect setup for thunderstorm development. The pressure gradient between that Tasman high and the inland trough is driving those westerly winds ahead of the southerly change tomorrow. For inland areas, Moree at 37 degrees, Burke at 40 degrees, Charleville at 39, those westerlies are bringing hot, dry air from the interior. Fire weather concerns are legitimate. Let me cover more regional areas. Tamworth at 34 degrees today, tomorrow 31 with possible late storms. Armidale up on the tablelands, cooler at 28 degrees, dropping to 24 tomorrow with storms likely from 2 p.m. onwards. Orange in the central west at 29 degrees, tomorrow 26 with a slight shower chance. Down in Victoria, Gippsland often gets missed. Sale at 30 degrees, Bairnsdale 31, Traralgon 29. That southwesterly change Friday drops you to mid-20s with 5 to 15 millimetres possible. The Grampians region hauls Gap at 30 degrees, Horsham at 33, that change arrives late Friday. South Australian coastal areas, Victor Harbour at 27, Robe at 26, maritime influence keeping temps moderate, Adelaide Hills around 29 to 30 degrees. Western Australia S, Southwest Margaret River at 32 degrees, Busselton 33, Albany 28. The Pilbara and Kimberley Port Hedland at 37 with high humidity, Karatha 38, Derby 35. The big wet is in full swing, exactly what you'd expect for early February. Jabiru has picked up 178 millimetres since Friday, Katherine 140 millimetres, and there is more coming. The monsoon trough is active for at least another week. Tennant Creek at 36 degrees. You are on the southern edge, so hit and miss storms rather than daily drenching. Back to that technical model discussion, GFS has consistently shown that Queensland coastal trough further offshore than access for the past 3 runs. ECMWF splits the difference. This tells me there is genuine uncertainty about exact positioning. A 50-kilometre shift could mean the difference between 10 millimetres and 40 millimetres for Brisbane and the Gold Coast. By tomorrow, we'll have another couple of model runs inside the 72-hour window, and they should be coming into better agreement. Beach conditions worth mentioning. Sydney beaches tomorrow. Northeasterlies pick up ahead of the change, waves building to 1.5 to 2 metres. After the southerly change, dropping back to 1 to 1.5 metres. Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast, light winds continuing, 1 to 1.5 metres, great for swimming. Newcastle, similar to Sydney, building seas tomorrow, settling Friday. Perth metro beaches, sea breeze this afternoon, waves around 1 metre, water temp around 23 degrees. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you one more time, drop your city or state in the comments. Tomorrow I am going through all the locations you mentioned and giving more detailed, personalised forecasts. I genuinely want to help you plan your week, whether you're in the metro areas or regional Australia. So quick recap in natural speech. We've got a cool change moving through southern states tomorrow. Potential severe storms for northern New South Wales and southeast Queensland tomorrow afternoon. Elevated fire danger inland, and then eyes on that potential tropical development in the Coral Sea for next week. Perth staying hot, Darwin staying humid, and that unusual situation where Melbourne S warmer than Darwin should flip back to normal tomorrow. Look, I know long-range forecasts aren't perfect and weather can change. That's exactly why checking back tomorrow matters. As we get closer to these events, model agreement improves and I can give you more confident, specific information. Tomorrow's video, I am diving deep into that Coral Sea system, updating you on whether the Queensland coastal trough comes inland or stays offshore, and breaking down forecasts for all the locations you've mentioned in comments. Video drops at the usual time tomorrow evening. Appreciate all of you watching and engaging with these forecasts. Your comments and questions help me understand what information matters most to you. Stay safe out there, especially if you're in those storm risk or fire danger areas tomorrow.